Hey everybody, it's Chris Seeds, Wootini over at GayGamer.net, here with another weekly video podcast. This week I want to start off by talking about Elegy for a Dead World, which is a very, very unique game that is available now on Steam. I wrote a review for the site, but it's kind of difficult to review the game because it's not so much of a game as it is like a creative writing exercise. If you've read my preview from PAX East, or my review, basically there are 3 worlds that you walk through as like a side-scroller, and at various points you write about what you see. And I just found it utterly fascinating. Now, I like to write. If you don't, then it's maybe not for you. But there are options. You can write just freely whatever strikes your fancy, or you can use prompts that will give you like the start of a sentence and then you fill in the blanks. So if you don't feel confident, you can do that and still create something quite wonderful. And it's also fascinating to me because after you've written your story, you can publish it, and then you can also read other works that other people have published about the same world. And they saw the same things as you, but it's fascinating to read what they've written and to see how they interpreted the weird sci-fi visuals versus what you interpreted. And I think it's quite fascinating. It's an interesting experiment, if not quite a traditional video game. But it's art, right? So, you know, interpret it how you feel. I will admit, though, that I had a little bit of trouble with it in the beginning, because I was able to play it, because luckily it's Mac compatible, so I was able to download and install Steam on my iMac, and then download Elegy for a Dead World. Unfortunately, whenever I tried to publish it, it wouldn't publish anything I've written. I could read other people's stuff, I could write it and save it, but I just couldn't share it with anybody, which is half the experience, so it's kind of ruined. And I was going back and forth with one of the developers, and eventually we worked out what the problem was. But, like, this is why I prefer playing games on consoles instead of computers, because with the computers, there's so many different configurations that there's any number of little things that could be affecting how, you know, the game is getting glitchy. Whereas on a console, everybody's playing on the same system, there's no customization for it, so it's not like you have a different graphics card that suddenly is incompatible with what they've programmed, and they suddenly have to adapt to that. But it did work out eventually. We figured out what the problem was, we fixed it, it was all good. But it was just a little frustrating, and it reminded me why I don't like to play games on the computer so much. Although I had no problems at all playing the recently released Coming Out on Top, which is quite unique. It's a bit filthy, but it's a charming little coming out adventure game. It's just a choose-your-own-adventure kind of thing. You basically play a young man in college, his last semester in college, who decides to come out to his roommates, one male, one female, and misadventures ensue, some of which involve graphic sexual encounters. So be warned going into it. But it's quite charming, it's quite funny in places, and I've yet to end up with a particularly happy ending, but I'm going to keep trying. It doesn't take so long to get through it, like one playthrough, but there's lots of different places where the story veers off in different directions, and like the last time I played it, I was really gunning for one guy and almost had him, but blew it in the end. And I'm not sure where I blew it. I should have saved my game like halfway through so I didn't have to go through the whole beginning part again. But I totally blew it with him. And there's another character that I'm not even sure how you're supposed to get on their good side, because I've only encountered 2 scenes with this character, and both times it's horrible and awkward and terrible, and I don't know how to make it not. But there's multiple dialogue options, so I'm sure I'm just missing the one dialogue option that'll get him to open up and be a nice guy. So I'll have to try one of the next ones. But it's really funny, and it's a nice little indie game, and I recommend it. I believe someone else will be doing the review for GayGamer.net, but in my opinion, it's a lot of fun to play. So you should check it out. And it is a game, it is a computer game, PC, Mac, that does work properly. Although, not to say that I haven't had problems with consoles. In fact, this past week I had a very weird situation with my PS3. I went to put a Blu-ray in to watch a movie, and when I turned on my PlayStation, all of a sudden, there was the screen was square. It wasn't filling my widescreen TV. It was a square box that basically just said, "Oh hey, it looks like you've got an HDMI cable. Do you want to use the HDMI cable to your TV?" And I'm like, yes. And then it went widescreen, and then it was like, "Oh hey, it also seems like it's a 3D TV. Would you like to enable 3D play?" I'm like, yes, I did this already. And then finally it takes me to the main screen with the XMB, and it's not my customized background image that I had selected. That's gone. It's just the plain blue image, the plain blue background. And I'm just like, what? And so I went into my settings, and it turns out like all my settings just like got reset somehow. Like all the audio and video settings. I had to go back in and reset the audio so that it like the sound would go through my speakers and I could get surround sound and whatever. And it was just the weirdest thing, and I don't know what happened. I didn't shut it down weird the time before. Like everything was perfectly fine. It just sort of spontaneously said, I need to reset, which is kind of obnoxious. But, yeah, so that was weird. I posted on Twitter, and nobody else seems to have had that same problem, so I think it's just me. I'm special that way. It's a gift, what can I say? Nothing ever seems to want to work right. So, that's it for me for this week, and I will see you back here next week. And hopefully I'll have a better report on maybe I have finally landed Ian in coming out on top. But I should probably try for one of the other guys that'd be a little easier, so I could at least get one happy ending. You know, not the happy ending, an actual happy ending. You know what I mean. I'll see you next week. Bye.